Wow, I normally get a round of applause at the end, not the start, so this is a good start already. So just a quick reminder that all of my talks are quite interactive, so that means you will need to talk to people, perhaps move around a little bit. Nothing too exciting today, but you will need to interact. So if that's not for you, then you can, of course, observe, or there is another fabulous talk on at the same time if you just want to sit back and relax. So we are going to start by asking you to stand up, please, if you can. I know, just had some food, let's get some energy in the room. And then, sit down if you've ever judged someone. Oh. I'll assume that you've all judged someone at some point, and I'm slightly relieved that it's not just me. Whew, this talk might be relevant to you after all. So, the talk is based on this quote. We judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions. We judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions. And actually, just by putting this quote up, it's actually showed my intentions versus my actions, because I don't generally quote dead people. And for those that don't know, Stephen Covey passed away over 10 years ago. So I'm already not matching up my intentions from my actions in this talk. But I'm going to talk about another story, actually. And this story happened a week ago. And I was in my local town with my daughter. She's 13. Anyone got any teenage children? Yeah, you can probably relate to some of this stuff. And we were stood at a zebra crossing. And in the UK, what's meant to happen at a zebra crossing is the cars are meant to stop. The car didn't stop and zoomed past. I managed to actually hit the back of the car and call them a something idiot. You can fill in the blanks. My daughter turns around to me and says, "Dad, did you learn nothing from the speed awareness course you were on 2 days ago?" And my heart kind of sank. I was judging someone on their intentions, right? We don't know what was happening for them at the time. They may have been distracted. Have I ever gone through a zebra crossing? Probably, right? It happens from time to time. Yet I was so quick to get angry and judge that person for what they did. I'm a bit of a data nerd. You'll see lots of statistics in this course. So I decided, was it rational for me to be more angry at this person to go for a zebra crossing than me for speeding? And the answer is actually no. It's 5 times more injuries from speeding in the UK and 25 times more deaths. So it is irrational for me to get angry at someone for going for a zebra crossing when I apparently speed now and again. So, what I'd like you to do is think of a time when you have judged someone, their actions quickly rather than their intent. So think of a time when you have judged someone's actions quickly rather than their intent. You've only got 1 minute for this. Susie only gives me 30 minutes here, but there we go. We'll carry on from that. Silence. Okay, has everyone thought of something? Was it pretty easy to do so? It's like, oh, which one shall I pick? That's what it was like when I was trying to work out which example to give here. Uh-oh. We won't do that poll. I was warned that the internet might not be that good. So we'll carry on. So what caused the judgment in your situations? Let's just have a couple of shout-outs instead. Emotions, yeah. What kind of emotions? Fear, anger, yeah. Frustration. Yeah, things get in the way, right? I think there was a mix of that in mine. Definitely some anger. Perhaps I'd woken up a little bit grumpy, a little bit early than I would have liked. Perhaps I'd had a couple of drinks the night before. Shh, don't tell anyone. So I was a little bit worse for wear, perhaps. And it caught me off guard. It happens. If only there was a tool that could perhaps help us just a little bit in future. Oh, and there is. So we're going to go for a couple of tools that might help you in these situations. And hopefully, just maybe, not every time, we're all human, right? Help you not get into so many of those situations, especially in a work situation. So we're going to talk about the 3 brain states, and we're going to use an elevator as a metaphor. Now, it's important when we go through these states that we don't see one as bad and one as good. We see them all as equal. All of these three brain states are there for a reason, and we need them, right? We've got the red brain, basic survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Right? It's there to protect ourselves in those times of need. In that situation, I felt scared, right? I thought I was going to get run over. It was irrational, but it happens, right? So we need this situation, and in that situation, we do one of these things. I decided to fight, right? Perhaps other people might have run away. Now, I'm going to carry on the story because I don't want you all thinking I'm some kind of lunatic that goes around, smashing cars up and goodness knows what else. That wouldn't be perhaps a good scene for me. So I did do a good deed straight after. So after this moment, we were walking through the car park, and I saw a lady, and she was struggling a little bit. She had a bonnet open of her car, a bit like the picture here, and people were just walking past her, and I kind of stood there a couple of minutes, and I was like, should I ask her? Is that the thing to do? Everyone else is walking past. I'm not sure what the rules are here. Will she feel safe for a man who's got 2 black belts to say hello to her and ask her if she's okay? But I decided to do it. This is our emotional control brain. It's where we seek those social connections, those rules. When you first came here the first morning, perhaps some of you felt a little bit uneasy about what to expect, where you were going, what was going to be next. That is probably you in your green brains. Hopefully by now you've been put at ease a little bit more, most of you, and you're at that blue brain, which is the next brain, a little bit more often. So this is where we want to be in our work context as much as possible. This is where we can solve problems. This is where we can do our creative thinking. And this story has a happy ending because I noticed it was the battery that was dead. I had a battery pack in my car, so I went and got it, started her car. She called me a knight in shining armor. Beautiful. She went off, and we all lived happily ever after. Okay, so nice end to the story. Now, there's some questions that you can ask yourself in these situations, or maybe after, to retrospect, right? We learned about retrospects this morning. These are the sort of questions I asked myself when I was retrospecting it with my daughter after. Am I feeling defensive, reactive, or like I must protect myself right now? Do I need to act impulsively, withdraw, or control the situation? Then I'm probably in red brain, right? And I need to think about what do I need to do to get out of that state. For me, it's a couple of deep breaths, yeah? In through the nose, and out through the mouth. Just a couple of those, and that starts to bring my heart rate down, start to think rationally again, and gets me probably back into this green brain. In green brain, again, I'm experiencing emotions like fear, anger, excitement. Are they driving my actions? So not severe as in red brain, where it's acting, but your emotion is, you can feel it swirling around in you. It's trying to get you to, go into that red brain perhaps. It's teasing you to go there, but you need to try and stay out of it. Am I reacting based on how I feel than what I know? Yeah? So I know I should ask that person for help, but in that moment I was feeling uncomfortable about doing so. I don't know why, but I was. Or am I in this blue brain? Can I reason, plan, and consider different options? Am I focused on problem solving, analyzing information, or engaging in creative thinking? Then I'm probably in blue brain. I'm going to bring this up again in a minute, so don't worry. I'm just going to give you some instructions. So you're going to have 5 minutes. I want you to reflect on the questions. I'm going to bring them up again in a minute. In your situation, which brain state do you think you were in? And then have a little discussion in your groups. So have a read, 1 minute on your own, just contemplating, then discussing in your groups about the different brain states, when you're in those different situations, and specifically the example from earlier. Yeah. How did it work for you? Did it manage to work out where you were?
Yeah, I'm directly connected to the responsibility process, but this is the more scientific approach and less esoteric.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. How's the timing going? You think that's still? Think people need a little bit longer?
No, I think 2 more minutes.
2 minutes, perfect. Let's try and start playing now. So we're going to try the magic hand thing. Yeah, so when I put my hand up, what you've got to do is stop talking and put your hand up. This works in most cultures I've found, not so much in Spain, but I don't know what that says about the Spanish people. We'll see. Maybe Portugal as well, I'm not quite sure, Kelton. Yeah. Works in Portugal, okay, cool. So, hopefully you had some good conversations. Perhaps some of you were in red brain, a few in green. Just remember that they're not good or bad. These different brain states are there for a reason. But do remember, when you're angry, you lose control. And when you lose control, someone else gets it. Back to quoting alive people again, by the way. So, back to my comfort zone. Do speak to me after about why I don't like quoting dead people. But it's generally better over a beer and might take some time to explain, so we'll see. So, we're going to talk about another story. And we're going to bring in another model in a minute. And this is a story that I'm a little bit ashamed of. It's about a person who was struggling in work. And they were working on backlog items, or perhaps you call them user stories where you work. And they would say in the daily scrum, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to finish it today. Yeah, I'm definitely going to finish it today. And then you'd get to the next day, and guess what? They hadn't finished it, right? And this would sometimes go on for days. And I was thinking, why is this person so unreliable? And then last week, my mother was in hospital. I had to drive up and go and see her. And guess what happened to me? Mr. Perfect, the person who always hits their deadlines. Things slipped, right? And did I feel comfortable telling everyone about what was going on in my personal life? Did I want to tell them everything that was going on? No, I want to keep some of that stuff to myself. So just because people don't tell you that they're having problems or challenges in their work doesn't mean they are. Don't judge that action when we don't understand their intent. So, what I'd like you to do, another bit of work on ourselves today. I know my talk told you that I was going to fix your team for you, but the secret is the team isn't the problem. Maybe you are. So, think of a time when you judge team members' actions without knowing the whole story. Okay? Think of a time when you judge team members' actions without knowing the whole story. You all managed to think of something? I don't need to get you all to stand up again, do I? I think you've got the drill by now. Yeah, this is stuff that happens every day. And I've got a friend of mine, and it feels like I need to remind him of this all the time. It's like, come on, man, we had this conversation yesterday. We don't know the background of that person. We don't know why they were 2 hours late to the training yesterday. We just don't know, right? Lots of things can happen. So, have a discussion, again, in your groups. What did you do to move on from that situation? And doing nothing might have been the answer, right? That's also okay. Perhaps you did nothing. So have a little discussion in your groups. What did you do to get out of that situation of judging someone or a team? Fred, I think I failed. I failed your ask. That's all right. I can see.
Judged you. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So, hands up again. Good. It worked again. Woohoo. So, let's have a couple of shout-outs again. What did you do? Was that? Communicate. Yeah. Yeah. Did anyone do anything different than communicate?
Also give benefit of doubt to the people.
Yeah. Assume good intent. Yeah, give the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, definitely.
That was actually
Okay, so you stepped out. Yeah. At the back?
We have some experience at our company, something called check-in. So at the morning, beginning of meetings, we go around the table, we ask two questions. How do you feel today? Is there anything preventing you to be mentally here today?
Yeah, check in. So how are you feeling today? And is there anything that's stopping you mentally being present? Right. All those things help us, especially with that brain state question earlier on, right? So we have to assume we're in a good brain state first of all. And then what can we do? Communication is key. Yeah, so you all got the right answer. So I think that deserves a round of applause. You at least got my answer. You can be the judge if it's the right answer. But I have got a few more data points for you in case there was anyone there who didn't believe me. Salesforce did a study. Companies with effective communication are 3.5 times more likely to outperform their peers. McKinsey, 90% of employees believe communication impacts their task efficacy on a daily basis, 97%. And poor communication costs companies an average of $62.4 million per year in lost productivity. So it's probably something that we should invest some time in, right? The data is pretty damning. Now we're going to look at one element of communication, and that's feedback. And specifically, something that we call clean feedback. So this is a model that Caitlin Walker developed. And clean feedback is a communication technique that provides clear, non-judgmental, and objective feedback that focuses on observable facts rather than assumptions or emotions. So we're trying to take those things that we've talked about earlier, the things that we don't know, and we're bringing those out into the forefront of the other person's mind so that we can have that conversation. It helps avoid miscommunication and defensiveness, promoting constructive conversations that foster understanding, growth, and positive change with teams. Ooh, sounds good, right? Yeah. So if you want to know more, there's a book from Caitlin Walker, From Contempt to Curiosity. One of my favorite books of all times. Not an Agile book. It's actually a book about working with children who got removed from schools. And I always say, if this model works with children that got removed from schools, then it's probably going to work with your developers. Maybe. That's the bar I'm kind of working on, right? Yeah. Okay. So the model has 3 parts. You can actually use them in any order, but I'll just do them in the way that they come so that we can simplify and break it down. So evidence. You said you would complete your product backlog item by Friday. It's now Tuesday. This is the second deadline that you missed in the last week. Quite blunt, right? We're getting to the point. But this is factual, right? This person had stood up in the daily scrum for 3 days now and said, yeah, I'm going to complete this item by the end of the day. And they hadn't. No one forced them to give that deadline. That's what they decided to say. What was I making up? I like to call this the story in my head. You know, what was the things going on for me? I believe you might be working on too many other things, kind of low priority items, including your work with a local charity. This was always the dagger in the back for this one. This person ran a homeless charity in Greater London. Really awesome, useful stuff, right? Stuff we all need. But I need him to complete his product backlog items, right? I'm another team member here. What was the impact on me? Well, I was getting grief from senior leaders, like, what's happening to your sprint goal? Why are these things not being delivered? And I was losing trust every day in this person because they were saying one thing and not delivering another. So this is the feedback I gave the person. Now, let's have a look at some principles, because some of you might argue, oh, well, we can't just say exactly what's going on. So we'll talk to some famous people, see what they said. So Brené Brown, again, amazing author. Do read some of her stuff, especially Dare to Lead. Fantastic book. She says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Do we all agree that what I said was clear? Yeah? No, just me? Okay, it's fine. It's my intent, I guess. Simon Sinek says, there's a difference between giving directions and giving direction. Notice, the feedback was owned by me. I wasn't telling that person what they should do with it, how they should change. That's for them to explore. Okay, I'm not giving them directions, I'm giving them direction of what's not working for me right now. I'm owning that feedback that I'm giving them. And Kim Scott, who wrote a fabulous book called Radical Candor, says radical candor is caring personally while challenging directly. So we can care for someone. I really did care for this person, right? A great guy. How can you not care for someone who runs a homeless charity in London, man? But again, it was frustrating and something needed to change. So we are running out of time, so I don't think we're going to have time to go through this exercise. But here are some questions that you can ask yourself in these situations, or ask someone else. You can be a detective, find out what's missing in these situations. Do I need some evidence? What can I see or hear in this situation? The person hasn't delivered those items, they said they would. That's evidence. If I recorded that back, I could see that happening, right? I could see that daily scrum and what was happening in it. Do I need to explore what's happening for me in that? What's my story? What do I mean for me? What was that like in that situation when that person was giving that update, knowing that it probably wasn't going to happen? Or do I really need to think about what's the impact? And be careful with the impact. This is the impact on you, not on your team, not on someone else, but the impact on you. Otherwise, it's just an inference, right? You don't know what the impact is on others unless you specifically ask them. And if you have, then you're getting in the way of someone else's challenge. So always get people to give their own feedback where possible. So we're not going to do the practice. You can do this in your own time, a little bit of homework. But I am going to give you some feedback myths to take away. So there's a myth that I hear a lot. People don't like receiving feedback. Myth busted. 83% of employees really appreciate receiving feedback, regardless if it's positive or negative. And you might say, that's different from my culture. Well, this study was 150 countries, 1,000 organizations, and 1.2 million employees. Okay. Feedback does not motivate people. Anyone think that? No one's going to admit to that, so that's fine. Myth busted! Yeah. 80% of employees who say they have received meaningful feedback in the past week are fully engaged. Yeah? Feedback does motivate people. And the last myth, I'm already good at giving feedback. Who thinks they're good at giving feedback? Just Jan. Myth busted. 64% of employees think the quality of the feedback they receive should be improved. That means that only 1 in 3 of you in this room are probably good at giving feedback. From our poll, it was just Jan, but that's fine. Maybe some of you are more modest. Well, I'll give you that feedback after Jan, that's fine. Yeah, maybe when the microphone's off. So, 3 things to take away from this talk. When you're angry, you lose control, and when you lose control, someone else gets it. Easier said than done, but next time you're in that situation where you feel yourself going into that red brain, think about what you can do to get out of it. For me, it's those couple of deep breaths, right? Work out what it is for you. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So don't hold back in the feedback that you give someone. If you really care for them and you want the best for them, then that person needs to know that message. They need to understand, and that's how you're going to be able to move on in that relationship going further. If you don't, then you're just storing up the pain and suffering for far too long, and eventually it becomes impossible to resolve that situation. And I'm sure many of you have been in those situations before. And finally, Stephen Covey's there again, back from the dead. We judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions. Thank you.